Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to the introduction to auditing. So today we're going to look more into the audit working papers. Okay, so today we're looking at the documentation audit working papers. So as we go through this, you'll be able to understand what the different referencing and what the different tick marks mean. Okay, so as we start a new engagement, we need to create up the new current year file. Okay, so how do we start up a new current file? First, we need to make use of last year's audit file. So last year's audit file provides us a lot of information. For example, it provides us the information to understand what the entity's business is about. What type of business does the entity do? How do they generate revenue? What type of assets do they have? What type of purchases do they make? And so on and so forth. Okay, so this provides us a very good understanding to understand the entity that we are auditing. Now, the file also provides direction on the type of source documents available and who maintains this information. So based on the information that's documented in the file, you'll be able to know what type of documents that are available, for example, sales invoices, delivery orders, certain contracts, and then based on documentation, you'll be able to understand who you're able to obtain these documents from. Next, the last year's audit file also provides sources or information for work performed in prior year. So as you look through the prior year working papers, you'll be able to see what audit procedures have been performed by last year's auditors. So for example, if you're looking through trade receivables, you'll be able to see what work was done when we look at the AR aging, when we look at the trade receivables confirmation. So it shows you the work that's been done, and also more importantly, it provides you information and identifies the issues that they have popped up in the prior audit. So for example, if there's a certain problem that is in the trade receivables in last prior year's audit working papers, that means this same problem or a misstatement could possibly occur in the current year. So we have to take note of such things. Okay, so once we understand what's in the prior working papers, we need to set up the skeleton audit file for current year. So the current year file normally can be, need to prepare a paper file or an arch file. Then that's where we'll file all the documents inside. We'll normally include a copy of the prior year signed financial statements. And then we need to create the different sections for the different audit working papers. And then we will need to get dividers that will separate up all these different sections. Now, once we have set up the skeleton file, we will need to roll forward all the different lead sheets. So this is just an example of what the prior lead sheet will be and how we need to get to the final roll forward lead sheet for current year. So how do we start to roll forward the lead sheets? Firstly, we need to find the lead sheets. So the lead sheets contain the information of the relevant accounts that are relevant for the different sections. So for example, cash and bank will have a lead sheet for itself. Plant, property and equipment will have its own lead sheet. Trade receivables, trade payables, so on and so forth. So in the different lead sheets, we need to roll forward the figures. So let's say, for example, if this year I'm auditing for the year ended 31st December 20x3, all right, and this documentation is from my 20x2 audit file. So actually, I need to transfer the figures from here over into this column. So what I do first is I have to delete the prior year column figures. So this is the last year's figures. I will delete them, and then I will copy the current year column into the prior year column. So the figures from here will need to be copied over into the prior year audited balance. Next, we need to change the year end accordingly. As mentioned, we're auditing for the year 20x3. This will need to be changed to 20x3, and this will be changed to 20x2. So this one will be changed 20x3 and 20x2. Then once we have obtained the trial balance for 20x3, we need to enter the current year figures into the current year column. So then you enter all the current year figures into here. So in the working papers, there will be documentation of the work that is being done and the conclusions. So before we start the work, we will remove all of this so that our lead sheet is clean. Then with the rolled forward lead sheets, we are now able to start with the audit of the different sections. Now, in every lead sheet, in every page, there will be tick marks to show the work that is being done. So this is a list of common tick marks that will be all over the working papers. So the tick marks generally will be the same, but it may differ from audit firm to audit firm. So at the bottom of every page, you will need to document down what the tick marks mean. We also need to reference our working papers properly, because every work paper needs to have a unique reference to show its place in the audit file. And when we cross-ref our work papers to supporting work papers or to a lead sheet, we want to indicate the document where the tests have been performed. So for example, this is E201. Okay, so in this case, E201 is referring to the bank confirmation, referring to the bank reconciliation work that is being performed. Again, now when we cross-ref, it also avoids duplication of work. Now, how do we reference a working paper? So for example, the lead sheet always starts off as the first lead sheet for the section. So let's say if this is the first page, so this will be E101 for the lead sheet. The next test that we perform will be E201. Next test will be E301, so on and so forth. So let's say we're looking at a confirmation control sheet, which is E401. And if we have documents that fall underneath this section, we can continue this as E402, E403, so on and so forth. So different firms may have different ways of documenting the work. Some firms may just be E1, E2, E3, E4. And then here will be E4/1, E4/2. So it depends from firm to firm on the documentation. However, we just need to take note that our documentation in our work needs to be clear so that other people will understand what has been done. Now, what are you expected to document in your working papers? So for every audit working papers that you work on, firstly, you need to sign off with the date for the work that you have done. So once you have completed the work here, you will sign off with your name and the date that is completed. Now every page also would have cross-referencing. So at the top, it will indicate the unique referencing for this page. And if there's any work that is done in the working papers, for example here, all this cross-referencing must be done appropriately. The objective of the audit working papers also has to be indicated to show what is the purpose of the test here, and whatever details or work that has been performed into whatever supporting documents that you have vouched to or traced to, and whatever results that you have noted from the evidence gathered, this has to be documented clearly in the audit working papers. Lastly, you will have a conclusion to conclude whether you have noted any exceptions or whether there are no exceptions. So now we're going to understand how to document down audit adjustments. So during the course of your audit, when you're looking through the different items in the financial statements and through audit procedures, you will pick up certain misstatements. So let's say, for example, this is the trade receivables confirmation that I have received. And so during the reconciliation, I realized that there is a misstatement in the trade receivables that is recorded. Company has recorded too much trade receivables. So I will document down my explanation to why this is a misstatement, and I will also propose an adjusting journal entry to correct the misstatement. So I have to propose a journal entry, debit what, credit what. Okay, so in this case it's debit sales and credit my trade receivables. And so this has to be documented in the place or in the page where the misstatement has occurred. So the auditor will document down all the reasoning and the supporting evidence to why this is a misstatement on this page. And once he has documented this, the auditor has to also document down the misstatement in the relevant lead sheets. So in this case, we have to document down the adjustment in the trade receivables lead sheet. So in this case, trade receivables has to be credited. So that's why I have put an adjustment 1, and then I have credited bracket the 12,500 here for the adjustment that we've identified earlier. Okay, so I will do the same thing in the sales lead sheet. And then once I have done the documentation lead sheets, I will document this in the adjustments listing. So in my proposed adjustment entries here, I will list down all the adjustments that I've picked up during the audit of the company. So I've documented down the place where I can find the documentation on the misstatement, the AJE number, the proposed audit adjusting entry, so it's debit sales, debit 12,500, and credit trade receivables 12,500. So once I've documented down in the adjustment listing, I need to document this in the adjusting trial balance. Okay, so we have an adjusting trial balance to record down all the adjustments, and so that we're able to see how the company's financial statements should be. So for example, my sales is 29 million here. I need to add in the adjustment of the debit sales. So I'll write AJE1, then I'll debit my sales 12,500 here to show the adjustment. Similarly, in my trade receivables, I will record the adjusting entry AJE1 and credit the 12,500 here. So I need to input the adjustment into my adjusting trial balance for my balance sheet and my P&L. From here, I can actually see what is my actual sales after adjustment. So if you look through here, my net income is actually 4,780,000 here. This will be my adjusted net income after all the adjustments. And then when I look at my balance sheet, I must remember to also transfer the total adjustments from my P&L. In this case, it's 12,500 debit side and 0 for the credit. I must transfer here into my current net income under my owner's equity. So I got my P&L amount 12,500, and here will be 0. So from here also I can see what are my net asset or net liability position after all the adjustments. So this comes to the end of documentation. Thank you.